Welcome back to this video about the pyramids, Pharaoh tomb or ancient megasite. What is in the name that could help us understand the origin? You may have seen news articles or videos recently that claim there is a network of descending shafts and connecting passageways underneath the pyramids of the Giza plateau. At the weekend, the CAFRE project released more information about the nature of this research. A vast network of man-made shafts and connecting tunnels exists under the Giza plateau is a fantastic claim. A warm welcome to all. My name is Hugh Evans. I am author of The Origin of the Zodiac and The Origin of Time, and today I am going to be explaining my methodology in a little bit more detail because it is important to understanding the origin of the word pyramid. I use the primordial antediluvian language, which is Welsh, Cymraeg, which has remained intact in the remote mountainous region of northwest Wales, so we can now use it as a tool to go back in time and understand what our ancient ancestors were trying to communicate to us. In my book, The Origin of the Zodiac, I have used this methodology to determine the origin of the modern zodiac we know today. It is the star maps of Gwynedd, a vast interconnected network of ancient sites covering 1 million acres that actually determine the constellations above and can be visited today. And in my companion work, The Origin of Time, where I determine the origin of the 88 constellations made by an advanced ancient civilization, and they also conceptualized time in all its scales. It's a magnificent symphony of ideas. But this is not a new hypothesis. It has been known for over 100 years, the connection between the Welsh language and the ancient languages. Sir E.A. Wallace Budge, perhaps the most famous Egyptologist of all time, was curator of the Egypt and Assyrian department of the British Museum at the end of the 19th century, and he understood the connection between the Welsh language and the languages of Egypt and Mesopotamia, because he was from Cornwall, and in Cornwall they speak a similar language to Welsh. In 1960, Reg Stewart published the book Ysgrifennu the Welsh Pharaohs, which I have read, and cited an example of Budge's work. Here is the Egyptian hieroglyph for the scribe's equipment, and here is an excerpt from a Welsh dictionary. The English word to write is ysgrifennu in Welsh, and these components that Budge had identified, when you apply their names in sequence, ysgrifennu, they actually create the word to write and describe the Egyptian hieroglyph. And here is an example of that hieroglyph from ancient Egypt. This analytical methodology was continued by Alan Wilson and Baron Blackett. At the end of the 20th century, they wrote Moses in the Hieroglyphs and other books, and used the Welsh language associated with Egyptian hieroglyphs to read names and short sentences. Ross Broadstock brought these components together in his book Cymraglyphics, and I helped edit the second edition. These are available at cymraglyphics.com. And I have done a video on my YouTube channel. I will put a link up there somewhere explaining the Eye of Horus in detail. And this is an extremely important motif because it is very old. The Horus motif goes back to the earliest pre-dynastic pharaohs at a time when the language was evolving, and it may be that people migrated to that part of Egypt and brought their understanding with them. So how does this help us understand if the pyramids are a tomb or an ancient megasite? Well, let's have a look quickly at what is the difference between the two. We are told that the Great Pyramid is the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, dated 2566 before the current era, but no body has been found in any pyramid, including the pyramids that had not been previously opened by tomb robbers. A quick comparison of pyramids and tombs shows that in the pyramids no bodies have been found, but in the tombs, the Valley of the Kings, we have found bodies in sarcophaguses of known pharaohs. The tomb of Ramesses IV contains his body. There are many glyphs around the tomb that describe the life and achievements of Ramesses IV, and there are many funerary items within the tomb to help the pharaoh on his last journey through the underworld. In comparison, there are no glyphs inside the pyramids, and no funerary items have been found inside pyramids. Why do we think that the pyramids are tombs? Well, the inventory stela is cited as a reference for Pharaoh Khufu being interred in the Great Pyramid of Giza, but that is dated by Wiki and other sources to the 26th dynasty, circa 670 before current era, 2,000 years after Pharaoh Khufu was supposed to have passed away. And I think it has to be considered as to its accuracy. Professor Robert Schoch, probably most famous for his work on dating the Sphinx by water erosion analysis, has released a scientific paper, which I will link below in the description, with other colleagues, entitled "The Inventory Stela More Fact Than Fiction," which raises concerns about what is said on the inventory stela and its authenticity. What is the alternative use or theory of the origin of a pyramid if it wasn't a tomb? Well, there are now some people who are proposing that the pyramids were ancient megasites. In 1998, Christopher Dunn published the book The Giza Power Plant, in which he proposes the Giza Great Pyramid is actually a power station and that uses chemicals to make the power. In his recent book, Giza, the Tesla Connection, he broadens his hypothesis to propose that the pyramids are some means of harvesting energy from the earth, and that they can then project that as directed power, and may also employ chemicals in this process. Christopher Dunn is an aeronautical engineer, and that is a qualification I also have. Jeffrey Drum and his YouTube channel The Land of Chem has an extended hypothesis that incorporates all the pyramids and proposes that they are chemical plants that use earth energy or atmospheric energy in the form of lightning to make chemicals. And I've read his book, The Land of Chem, and I encourage you to visit his YouTube channel to investigate this hypothesis, which is very compelling. In 2022, Dr. Filippo Biondi and Dr. Armando May used their commercially patented synthetic aperture radar technology to analyse the chambers within the Great Pyramid of Khufu. This is commercially patented technology. Patents are not granted to technology that cannot be demonstrated to be able to do what it says it is supposed to do, nor are people paying for commercial technology if it does not deliver results. This technology has been applied to the Khafre pyramid and has determined that there are a number of descending shafts underneath the pyramid which may be man-made in construction. And as said previously, at the weekend, the Khafre project has released further information about the Giza Plateau, the nature of the descending shafts under all three of the Great Pyramids, and a number of interconnecting passageways between them. Very exciting. So, pyramid, what is the origin? Can we shine any more light on these theories? Let's first look at what the online dictionaries tell us as is the origin of the word pyramid. Pyramid is from the Greek pyramis, which means a pyramid, and that may be from Egyptian pimar, which means pyramid. And this is a very unsatisfactory explanation. It is a circular argument. We have no additional information. There is no intrinsic meaning within these words that might help us understand what a pyramid is. As an example, an automobile has intrinsic meaning within the word. It is made up of smaller words we can understand, auto and mobile. Auto because as something that is mobile, it didn't need a horse to pull it around. There is no intrinsic meaning in any language except for the Welsh language. Here we see an excerpt from the dictionary again. Pyr is a boiler, a cauldron, an instrument, or something that causes something to happen. And if we look at it in reverse, pyr is a furnace. The mutated pyr is an instrument, to render causative, a tool. Let's consider the English word pyre. We all know what that means. This is also associated with the origin in the Welsh language. The second component of pyramid is mid, and there are two spellings of this. Mid is to arch, to vault, midi, or mid is an enclosed pit or place. Putting these together, a pyramid is an instrument, cauldron, something that causes something to happen. It is an arched vault, perhaps over an enclosed pit. This is a very good description of what a pyramid looks like and what it might do, and certainly correlates with some of the proposed purposes of the pyramid. I'd also like to do a shout out to Pendraig7, one of the commenters on previous videos, who suggested pyramid is also what is involved from to another, what causes, what forces, what directs force. And this creates a meaning of something that directs force into a central vessel. And this again demonstrates the layered meaning that we can understand from the Welsh language as our proxy for the antediluvian primordial language. And this is not available in any other language. Is there any evidence for this activity underneath the Giza plateau. This is a photograph that I have taken myself in November of last year when I went on the Giza plateau, and this is underneath in the Osiris shaft. Here is the group that we went down the Osiris shaft. There's Hugh Newman from Megalithomania, Youssef Owan, and that's myself there. This is a seam of iron oxide, and these are all carved out chambers. This is an image I took from the descending passage of the Great Pyramid. This again is a seam of iron oxide, and I have witnessed these seams of iron oxide right up to the surface of the Giza plateau. This is limestone bedrock, and it appears to me that this iron oxide pervades the entire Giza plateau from the surface down to a great depth. And it may be that ancient people were trying to retrieve the iron oxide as part of an industrial process. And this is what we see in the proposed structures underneath the Giza plateau that have been described by the Khafre project. And it correlates with what pyramid may mean from an etymological point of view in the antediluvian primordial language. I'm going to continue this analysis with looking at the Kemet, which is the ancient word for Egypt, the land of Kem. We can again use the primordial language, Welsh, to analyse this name, and the proposition that the pyramids are chemical plants to produce ammonia. In my book, The Origin of Numbers, which is at the printers in second edition, I have expanded it to include all elements which were named by the same people, as well as measurements, shapes, and the sciences. So I hope you've enjoyed that video. Please ring the bell and you'll be notified when the next video is released. And thank you for your time.